going to play. You see what happened in Solomon Island, where the people, because we're talking about the people. That's why we come here. We're here for the people. We're not here for politicians. We're not here for their bed partners, the religious leaders that have been stealing with them and lying to us. We are here for the people. So the people, they gave a pushback to China, because China is going up and down, stealing people's things, doing all the things they're doing, interfering with local politics, bribing their politicians to do what they're doing. So the people gave them a pushback. That's what we're saying. That in this day, we are not going to take certain things anymore. But there is a way that it has to be done. Not like the one guy that was ranting on the radio, Ojon Weboji. We are not talking of that type of pushback. We are talking about intelligent pushback. We work together in a particular order, so that when we do things, we will get desirable outcome, the outcome we want. It's just like when women are giving birth. If you don't guide the delivery, the child can just come out and tear everything and come out. So you guide what you're doing. It has to be guided in a particular way. The service has to be measured. The labor, the contract, so many things have to be measured and guided. Somebody is there watching you so that the child will come out safe and the mother will be safe as well. So please watch what is going on here, how the people are giving a pushback. We're not saying it's right or wrong. We're just reporting this to you for you to understand that will be rising when proper things are not done. Go ahead, Sister Mona, please.
Leaders take an oath to serve their citizens all over the world. But what happens when the same leaders become pawns for a foreign power? The citizens suffer, the country is cheated, and national interest is compromised. And this invariably leads to a pushback. This is what it looks like. This is the capital of the Solomon Islands, Honiara. 3 days ago, anti-government protests erupted here. These were violent protests, as you can see. A building next to the parliament was set on fire. A police station was torched. Shops were looted. Within hours, the city turned into a war zone. Now, for those of you who are wondering why this small island nation is our cover story tonight, I will explain. These riots in the Solomon Islands did not erupt due to domestic factors. They happened because of China, because of Beijing's growing influence/interference. Chinese cash is said to have triggered these riots, and I'm not talking about Chinese investments here, I'm talking about Chinese bribes. The money China reportedly paid to buy influence in the Solomon Islands. Influence for what? To get this country to dump Taiwan. The Solomon Islands broke diplomatic ties with Taiwan and switched allegiances to China. This one move has divided the country. Why should you care? Because the next country on this list could be yours. China has reportedly bribed politicians to dictate government policy. Today, it is the Solomon Islands. Tomorrow, it could be any other country. On Gravitas tonight, we'll tell you how China's bribes led to a riot and how this move has backfired for Beijing. Let's begin with what's happening in the Solomon Islands. No new incidents of violence or arson have been reported today, but there's an uneasy calm on the streets. Public anger is simmering, and the fury is directed at one man. Manasseh Sogavare, the Prime Minister of the Solomon Islands. He's the man who made the switch happen, the switch from Taiwan to China. For the protesters, he is enemy number one right now. They targeted Sogavare's compound. They could not get to his residence, so they decided to go after a building that the Prime Minister owns. It was set on fire. That is the extent of the public anger. These images tell the story. Sogavare is facing the wrath of his citizens, and it's not just because of his China policy. The list of complaints is rather long, we're told. Lack of government services and accountability, corruption, the influx of foreign workers, all of this has led to this anger. The Prime Minister is on the back foot. The protesters want him to step down. He says he won't. He blames the classic foreign hand. He says the protesters have been influenced by foreign powers. Here is a quote. This is what he says. External pressures were a very big influence. I don't want to name names. We'll leave it there. I'm not going to bow down to anyone. We are intact. The government is intact, and we are going to defend democracy. Prime Minister Sogavare is right. There is foreign meddling in the Solomon Islands, but it's not the protesters who are being influenced. It is the politicians. The Solomon Islands established diplomatic ties with Beijing in the year 2019. When the switch happened from Taipei to Beijing, Taiwan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs made a revelation. It said that China was bribing politicians in the Solomon Islands to abandon Taipei. And that claim was confirmed by a politician himself in this country. A provincial leader spoke out in 2019. His name is Daniel Suidani. He is the premier of Maliata. This province is at the forefront of the protests that are happening right now. Citizens from Maliata marched to the capital, Honiara, to protest. 2 years back, China tried to buy some influence there too, in the province. Suidani says that he was approached by someone from the Chinese government. He was offered cash. He refused the money, also refused to vote in favor of dumping Taiwan. 2 years later, he was made to pay for that decision. This lawmaker apparently needed funds for a brain surgery. An appeal was made to Prime Minister Sogavare. The request was turned down. Allow me to quote what Suidani has said. What happened in terms of the switch is not clear, but there is something going on between China and the Solomons that makes them switch without consulting with the people of the nation. Something was indeed fishy then. 2 years later, the picture has become clearer. Despite massive public opposition, Beijing is unrelenting in its support for Prime Minister Sogavare. Listen to this.
China pays close attention to the current developments in the Solomon Islands and condemns the violent acts that have caused serious damage and property losses. China supports Solomon government's efforts to stop violence and chaos. We believe that under the leadership of Prime Minister Sogavare, the Solomon government can restore order and stabilize the internal situation as soon as possible. China is taking all necessary measures to safeguard the safety and legitimate rights and interests of Chinese citizens and institutions in the Solomon Islands.
So in 2 days, Beijing has released 2 statements supporting the Prime Minister. But this situation is out of its control. Chinese citizens and businesses are under attack in the Solomon Islands. More than 100 shops owned by the Chinese have been destroyed. According to the Global Times, some shop owners are quote-unquote hiding in the hills. The Chinese embassy asks its nationals to not go out. China has offered support to Prime Minister Sogavare, but taking help from Beijing would be a suicidal move at this point. So he's turned to Australia. In 2017, Australia and the Solomon Islands signed a bilateral treaty. It allows rapid deployment of Australian police and defense personnel to the islands if there is an emergency. Around 100 Australian troops arrived overnight. They restored peace, albeit a tenuous one.
We are there to support the Solomon Islands Royal Solomon Islands Police Force to quell any unrest that is there and hopefully see the situation return to some calm. Overnight, we have seen what started as a protest. We have seen some more indiscriminate looting and things of that nature, which is a more general civil unrest. And
do you guys see what is going on here, right? So you see corruption going on in a country. You didn't show up to stop the corruption that will affect millions of people in the island. But when people are protesting because their right has been trampled upon, you have to now come and police. Unbelievable.
Unbelievable, my sister. This is what they always do. We say it now all the time. It's the same thing they did in Nigeria, in Sudan, in Gambia, in any country. That's their modus operandi. It is. So check it. That's what they do. They will not come when the people are dying, all the evil they're doing, when it's going on, they will not come. But they will only come when the people are not giving a pushback. As they will come.